my friends, and to all the viewers. I am Dr. Santosh Patil, Professor in Department of General and Minimal Access Surgery. Today, I'll be addressing a class on transfusion. In this class, I'll be dealing in detail about the blood and its components and the storage methods and the indications of transfusion. Also, I'll be highlighting about the transfusion in adult patients and guidelines of massive transfusion. Brief history about the blood transfusion. Blood transfusion was first started in the late 19th century. It was the first replacement therapy which was started. In 1900s, blood grouping major A, B and O groups were identified by Dr. Landsteiner. In 1939, Dr. Levin and Dr. Stetson coined the concept of RH grouping. Until the late 70s, the whole blood was the standard in transfusion that was used until a component therapy began to take prominence in patients, especially with the isolated deficiencies in the form of anemia, thrombocytopenia, and clotting factor deficiencies. Whole blood transfusion was the ultimate balanced solution that was used for transfusion of the fluids, and it was the resurgence in the military and the civil practice as well. It was commonly used for the resuscitation of acute hemorrhage patients. There are certain principles of typing and cross matching one has to understand. A serologic compatibility of A, B, O, and RH groups is established routinely, and cross matching, which is the major cross matching between the donor RBCs and the recipient sera, is performed. RH negative recipient should transfuse only with RH negative red blood cells. RH positive RBC should not be transfused with RH negative females who are especially childbearing age group. The typing and cross matching principles in emergency situation. The O negative is the universal donor type of RBCs. Type AB plasma may be transfused to all the patients in emergency situations. In emergency situations, especially if there is uncross-matched transfusion, use low anti-B titer type A plasma, which has been routinely adopted. Platelets usually do not require cross-matching, and type AB plasma currently carries a high risk of TRALI, that is transfusion-associated lung injury, compared to other plasma types. The cross-matching always should be performed before starting with the resuscitation process, that is before administration of the dextran, as it interferes with the typing procedures. Cross-matching is difficult, or it may be the reports may have a error in patients who have been transfused with multiple transfusion, or patients who have developed allo antibodies, autoimmune hemolytic anemia where there is already pan RBC antibodies. In clinically significant cold antibodies or agglutinins, blood should be administered through blood warmers. If it is present in high titer, usually the hypothermia is usually contraindicated. Coming to the individual blood component, that is the banked whole blood, usually are commonly used for acute traumatic hemorrhagic shock. It has been proved that with multiple studies that it has been successfully used in patients with military and civilian traumatic patients. The whole blood can be red blood cells or frozen red blood cells. These are the product of choice, especially in the initial phases of the resuscitation, and the shelf life of the RBC is about 42 days. There are certain changes that takes place whenever these RBCs are kept in a storage or a shelf life. That is, there is reduction in the intracellular ADP and 2,3 diphosphoglycerate. Also, it alters the oxygen dissociation curve, which further results in decreased oxygen transport to the distal most tissues. As it is stored for a long time, it becomes more and more acidotic because of the elevated lactate levels, potassium and ammonia. It has been seen that it also decreases the in vitro hemostatic potential of the plasma and the platelets. To reduce these things, a fresh frozen or fresh red blood cells are used that are nothing but a cryopreservation of the red cells. They provide a safe alternative means of storage. These cryopreserved RBCs at ultra low temperature, mainly the ultra low temperature suppresses the molecular motion and also arrests the metabolic and the biochemical reaction that is taking place in these cells. And the shelf life of these RBCs, that is a frozen RBC, is about 10 years at minus 80 degree Celsius. And also has been seen like there is a improved cellular viability, maintenance of ATP and 2,3-diphosphoglycerate concentrations. The only limitation of frozen RBC is its availability, means it cannot be used immediately in the emergency procedure because these are in a frozen phase. They need to be thawed and prepared, which is a process which takes about 90 minutes. That is the disadvantages. That is thawing and the preparation period about 90 minutes cannot be immediately used in emergency situations. Then there are other types of RBCs, that is the leukocyte reduced or the leukocyte washed. It indicates, the name itself says, the RBCs have been totally reduced with all types of cells, that is the leukocytes as well as the platelets. The leukocyte reduced are mainly by the process of filtration, which removes about 99.9% of the WBCs and most of the platelets. When these are subjected to additional washing with the saline, it is termed as leukocyte washed RBCs. This method prevents all febrile non-hemolytic transfusion reaction, that is fever and rigors. I'll be dealing again in my next class about the transfusion related complication. They are classified into the non-hemolytic, hemolytic and the transfusion of the infectious disease. So this again further sensitizes the patient with the alloimmunization to HLA class 1 antigens, and platelets transfusion refractionaries also and cytomegalovirus are reduced. So coming to the next component, that is the platelets. The common indication of the platelet transfusion is thrombocytopenia, again maybe because of the massive blood loss and replacement with the platelet poor products, and inadequate production of the platelets, or maybe because of the qualitative platelet disorders. They are stored at a room temperature under constant agitation. The shelf life is about 5 days from the time of donation, because it cannot be prolonged because of the risk of bacterial overgrowth. Very extremely rare there have been seen like deaths due to transfusion. That is one common cause being the platelets getting infected by the bacterial overgrowth. 1 unit of the platelet concentration has a volume of approximately 50 ml. These are capable of transmitting the infectious disease and can account for the allergic reaction as well. The therapeutic level that has to be attained is 50,000 to 1 lakh international units. The plasma is a usual source of vitamin K dependent factors and the only source of the factor 5. It may be a fresh frozen plasma. Whenever the plasma is donated, they are immediately frozen within the hours of donation and stored up to 2 years at minus 18 degree Celsius. The thawing prior, that is thaw prior 20 to 30 minutes before the use. This need to be used only after thawing the product. Thawed plasma can be relabeled immediately transfusible and can be stored up to 5 days at 2 degrees Celsius to 4 degrees Celsius. The plasma may be a liquid plasma or a fried dried plasma, that is FDP. Liquid plasma are the non-frozen plasmas. They are never frozen and can be stored up to 26 days at 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. They have a better hemostatic profile compared to the thawed plasma. The freeze-dried are the new rediscovered ideal resuscitation product for the patients in remote and austere environments. The shelf stable is about 2 years. They are extremely stable at even the highest or the extremes of the temperature. They are extremely or extensively used for they were used primarily for the resuscitation usually in the World War II, but they stopped using it mainly because of the highly transmission of the infectious diseases. So coming to the next is tranexamic acid. It's an antifibrinolytic. It acts mainly by preventing the clot breakdown. There are two processes that are happening, that is it inhibits the plasminogen activation and also reduces the plasminogen activation to plasmin, which further prevents binding to the fibrin and prevents the clot breakdown. But advantage is it does not affect the platelet count or the aggregation or the anticoagulation process. The indications are like it helps in decreasing the bleeding and also need for the blood transfusion, especially in the patient who are undergoing CABG and also orthoptic liver transplantation and hip and the knee arthroplasty. The EAST, that is the Eastern Association for Surgery of Trauma, they have conditionally recommended as a tranexamic acid as a hemostatic adjuvant in severely injured patient, especially if it is used in a early periods after injury. So these are the different blood and blood components. There are certain indication for the replacement of the blood and its elements. Like how to treat anemia, the treatment of anemia or the transfusion triggers. The term is a new term, that is a transfusion triggers. It refers to primarily to the non-actively bleeding ICU patients. So patients who are admitted in ICU but who are not actively bleeding, what should be the ideal hemoglobin for any patients in ICU or a critically ill or patient who are undergoing planning for a surgery? American Association of Blood Banks recommends about minimum threshold of 7 gram per deciliter for hemodynamically stable patients. So 7 is the minimum requirement of hemoglobin, and 8 gram of hemoglobin per deciliter for patient undergoing cardiac surgery, orthopedic, or those with a pre-existing serious disorders. If patient is symptomatic, means there is an anemia and patient has the symptoms, compulsorily the patient must have a 1 RBC transfused at a time. Then coming to the perioperative, if a patient is planned for a surgery or during or before the surgery, what should be the ideal indication for a transfusion of blood for the patients? If the hemoglobin level is less than 6, the studies have been proven like probably they will benefit from the transfusion. If the hemoglobin is between 6 and 8, unlikely to be benefit in the absence of bleeding or impending surgery. So if there is no plan for surgery, 6 to 8 maintenance is more than sufficient. If the hemoglobin is more than 8, there is no indication for transfusion in the absence of other risk factors, is the what latest textbook says. So coming to the volume replacement, what is the best method to replace the volume? It is the most common indication, means any patient undergoing surgery or patient patient coming to any trauma, the volume replacement is the most common indication for the replenishment of the blood volume. The measurement of these is mainly by the hemoglobin and the hematocrit levels. That will tell the amount of the blood loss. And the blood loss in the operating patient who has undergone a surgery, how do we assess the blood loss is mainly by the estimating the amount of blood in the wound and also on the drapes and the weighing sponges, and mainly by the quantifying the blood suction from the operative field. These are the different techniques how a blood loss is assessed on the OT theater. There are different, so these are the different blood components and their certain indications. Now coming to the newer concept of resuscitation. So when a patient of trauma comes to a hospital, what are the modalities, which of the ideal blood components to be used in a patient with blood loss? Initial, that is the old traditional resuscitation algorithm says crystalloids followed by red blood cells and then plasma and platelet transfusion, and massive transfusion was defined as more than or equal to 10 units of RBCs which are transfused in a patient for within 24 hours. So these were the traditional algorithms which were there, which has been replaced mainly now by the damage control resuscitation. It is a technique where there is a mechanical hemorrhage control. Important is to stop the hemorrhage. The principle here being, the more hemorrhage takes place, more resuscitation, we infuse more crystalloids, patient will be having a dilutional coagulopathy. So trauma associated induced coagulopathy is one of the deadly complication usually in a patient associated trauma induced hemorrhage. To stop that, immediate damage control resuscitation has to be started, and rapid maneuvers that promote hemostasis. So patient should not have a process of coagulopathy. We have to start with a balanced resuscitation with early delivery of plasma and platelets. They will immediately stop the bleeding points. Massive transfusion in present day is by defined as that administration of more than or equal to 3 units of RBCs within any hour of admission. If a patient is admitted, within that hour, if he requires more than 3, we term it as massive transfusion. So there are certain like limiting the iatrogenics. So once a patient comes, we need to make sure like the patient is not iatrogenically injured by excessive fluid resuscitation, especially the of crystalloid and the artificial colloid, which causes usually hypotension. These may be combined with the adjuvants to control the hemorrhage. So these are the different techniques how to stop a bleeding in a patient. So once a patient is bleeding and you have been resuscitated, there are certain indication how the patient should be, or what are the indication to transfuse the blood in these patients. So I'll be talking few points about the adult transfusion clinical practice guidelines, like initial transfusion of RBCs. Before that, a patient has to be notification has to be sent to the blood bank immediately of urgent need of RBCs. So if it is available immediately, so it can be given O negative uncrossed also available, it has to be transfused. As soon as possible, switch to O negative for females and O positive for females. If the availability is in the approximate 5 to 10 minutes, type specific cross match, which I already discussed, can be started. Availability is adequate, like the time approximately requires is 40 minutes. A completely cross match blood has to be transfused to these patients. Second point is blood has to be immediately withdrawn to send for the typing and cross matching, and emergency release of blood form to know what type of blood group is required for the patient, and O negative RBC blood type is if it is not known. And transfusion notes in detail has to be written on the case sheet. Patient must be identify his number because chances of cross reaction and allergic reactions are very high. To avoid that, it has to be tagged properly. So tagging of massive transfusion guidelines. So patient who may need, because during resuscitation it can be easily identified who are the patient who may require massive transfusion. In that time, patient usually a guideline has to be sent to the blood bank immediately. Patients especially who are unstable or receive 1 to 2 RBC and do not respond immediately. These are the few parameters on which a doctor decides this patient may require massive transfusion. So what are the guidelines for transfusion, that is massive transfusion in an adult patient? Immediately initiate massive transfusion guideline. So we have to send a immediate message to the blood bank for arranging the massive transfusion kit. That kit includes usually the plasma, the platelets and RBCs in the ratio of 1:1:1, ideally with a first 2 units of transfused RBC. And minimize crystallized infusion. It has been proved like most of the crystal usually cause hypotension and also lead to dilutional coagulopathy. Better to avoid these things. 6 RBC, 6 FFP and 6 pack of platelets packed in a cooler should be made available with rapid transport to the emergency area. Attempt should be made to obtain 1:1:1 of the plasma, platelets and the RBCs. And a massive transfusion should be terminated only if the patient is no longer actively bleeding. No blood components issued without a pickup slip, means without any slip, no transfusion should be initiated or disposed from the blood bank. The other guidelines are patient should be repeatedly evaluated with the investigation that to see whether the patient is still bleeding or not, like CBP, his INR, the fibrinogen level, the pH and the base, means how much is the acidosis that is taking place in the patient, and thromboelastography has to be done specially to assess for the coagulopathy disorder whenever it is available. So these are the different guidelines that are available for the transfusion of in male patient of blood transfusion and also for the massive transfusion. There are certain, whenever we are starting with the massive transfusion, we are also supposed to look for the component therapy that needs to be substituted for a patient. So this is the chart that's going to tell that fresh frozen plasma, the ideal indication is for every 6 RBCs give 6 FFP, that is 1:1 ratio. And the platelets components has to be given for every 6 RBCs and plasma give 1 6-pack of platelets, and make sure for during investigation we should make sure that platelets are above 1 lakh international units. The cryoprecipitate after the first RBCs always check for the fibrinogen level. If the levels are less than or equal to 200 milligram per deciliter, we have to give 20 units of the cryoprecipitate. So these are the different guidelines, because a patient with massive transfusion, blood alone cannot stop the process of coagulopathy, the bleeding, because patient will be losing blood constantly. He needs to be supplemented with the associated components also. In that pattern, this is the guideline for the component therapy administration for massive transfusion. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Kindly subscribe my channel.